And I definitely have never done this exact presentation before. So if we keep it more conversational, that's probably easier on me as a presenter. So yeah, so like Jeff said, thanks for the intro, by the way. But like Jeff said, I'm an ambassador for World Bicycle Relief, and I grew up in the Philadelphia area, so I know the roads around there pretty well, and I love riding when I go back home. My parents are still in Doylestown. But yeah, so an ambassador for World Bicycle Relief is like that's my fun job. My real job, I sell online advertising with Verizon Media, which is way less fun than talking about bikes. So I am a volunteer with World Bicycle Relief, and basically mostly a fundraiser, but I also I operate on their behalf at events that they can't get an employee to, or just if it's a local bike event for me, I'm empowered to go and spread the word of WBR. So that's a lot of what I do. And through the ambassador program, I have been able to actually visit Zambia in Southern Africa and take part in a bicycle distribution. I got to see a lot of, well, almost everything that you're going to see in this presentation. I mean, we did a lot in the week that I was in Zambia, and I will be speaking a lot from firsthand experience, really. So I really, really, really believe in this program, and it's one of the most special things that I've had the ability to be a part of in my life, and I'm super excited about it, and I'm super excited to share it with you guys. So in Africa, walking is the primary mode of transportation. And that's not just true in Africa, obviously, it's the entire developing world. So places like Indonesia, lots of places in South America, and basically the entire African continent. Plus all over Asia, everywhere, distance is a massive, massive barrier. And walking is the primary mode of transportation. Some of these kids that I was meeting in Zambia were living 14, 15 kilometers from the school that they walked to every day. And so their walk commute is like 3.5 hours each way.
Wow.
We'll talk more about that, but it often meant that their parents held them back from school instead of going. So like I was saying, though, the challenge of distance keeps people from school, visiting the health clinic, even going to market. And it's not just time that gets to be a problem, because that's a huge issue, but people get too tired to be able to go do these things, to go pick up their groceries, to go get their AIDS antiretroviral medicine, to go do whatever they need to do. And so this is a huge issue. World Bicycle Relief builds the Buffalo Bike. So this is a specifically and specially designed bicycle that is assembled in the place that it's going to end up in. So it's assembled close to the destination. So Zambian bikes are all assembled in Zambia, usually in the county or ward that they'll end up in. Same for Kenya. These bikes aren't crossing country lines. They're not traveling hundreds of miles. Once they're already assembled, they are assembled by locals, which is exciting. So we're employing locals to do that as well. And they're super, super, super rugged. And we'll talk about the bike too. And so World Bicycle Relief's vision is a world where distance is no longer the barrier to independence and livelihood. So to date, World Bicycle Relief has distributed more than 500,000 bicycles to students, healthcare workers, and entrepreneurs throughout Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia. The program has only been around since the mid-early 2000s, like 2003, 2004. There was a tsunami in Indonesia, I believe. And does everybody know what SRAM is? They're a bicycle component manufacturer, SRAM. If you didn't know, they're one of the big three, right? It's Shimano, SRAM, and Campagnolo. Well, SRAM, their founders, Stan Day and his brother, FK, they got together when this horrible tsunami hit, and they said, what can we do as a bicycle company that would help? How can we help this situation? And what they figured out was they could put bikes in the hands of these people who now needed to get places more than ever. They needed to be able to get to the hospital. They needed to be able to get to the market, and they didn't have the means to do so otherwise. And so they were able to install just under, I believe, under 50,000 bikes in like a year, and it was super quick, and it was slapdash. And they bought the bikes from someone else and installed them there, and they achieved their goal, but you know, they wanted to do more, and they were concerned about the quality of the bicycles that they were delivering, and they were concerned about the longevity of the program. So they did what the owners of a bicycle company do when you're distributing bicycles, is they went went back to the drawing board and said, okay, what are the challenges we're facing, and how do we solve those? And so they actually specifically designed this bicycle um, to survive the conditions of the third world. This bicycle is a single speed. It is 53 pounds. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I got ahead of myself, by the way. So we talked a lot about this, the assembly, the partnership with NGOs. I didn't talk about much, but they're selling them to NGOs. We're getting feedback back from the users. So these 53-pound bicycles that we're distributing, they are under constant revision. And so for a long time, the bicycle you can see in this image, actually, this is probably a 2012, 13, 14 model, somewhere in there, but there's no front brake. You can see it's just a coaster brake. There's no light on the front, or sorry, reflector on the front of the bike. So those things have all changed since. We've got a front brake. There's a reflector right on the front now. But all of that feedback came back from the users. Another thing that they did was they thought, oh my gosh, we're going all these long distances. Wouldn't it be great if we had gears? And so the SRAM engineers went and they developed a 3-speed internally geared hub, and delivered it to some farmers in Africa. And they came back a week later with a bunch of destroyed 3-speed internally geared hubs, absolutely ravaged by these men who are incredibly powerful cyclists, by the way. I got to ride with some of them, and they will tear your legs off. And yeah, so the conditions in Africa are harsh. The conditions in Indonesia were harsh, and South America is not much better, but it's hillier. So they're solving some new problems now that they're installing in Colombia. So this is the bicycle. This is the 53-pound monster. So this bike is durable. It is affordable. It's about $147, landed in Africa in donations from Americans or Europeans. It is about 98-ish US dollars, I believe. I think that's the current mark. But 98 US dollars for a local African to buy one. And they're sold for 147 to NGOs as well. They're super high quality. Obviously, they're made actually by the frames are made by the Giant Bicycle Corporation in China, and then shipped as parts to Africa, South America, Asia, wherever they need to go, in containers. And all of the other parts are made by Shimano, SRAM. This is a real bike industry effort. It's not just SRAM that's involved. Oops. And the parts are all compatible with things that are already in the market. That was really important. There are already a lot of bikes in Africa, and none of them are as durable as this Buffalo bike. So there's also a lot of spare parts. And one of the keys here was that this bike, there are obviously wear and tear items. Tires don't last forever. Chains don't last forever. Sprockets don't last forever. When those items wear, they needed this to be, you need to be able to swap these parts out with whatever's available. And so that was really, really important. There's an Indian company called Hero, I believe it's spelled Hiro, that distributes a lot of bicycles in Africa. And those bikes, I was on a farm with a guy, and we were talking about his Buffalo bike. He said, "Yeah, this bike is 6 years old." And I said, "What did you do before you had the bike? Did you just walk?" And he said, "Oh, no. I've had bikes for years." And then he showed me all of the frames in pieces on the roof of his barn, holding the tin on the roof down. And he said, "Yeah, they lasted about 90 days."
Wow.
So previous bikes that they were using were lasting 3 months. These bikes, some of them have already been in service for over 10 years, which is super exciting. This is what they're replacing. This is the Hero bicycle that has been heavily modified. And you can see, I mean, if you could zoom in on this picture, you could see the pedals are now replaced by wood with pieces of wrenches welded using a battery and some like zinc rods that they had. There's this crazy mud flap that is actually a part of a highway guardrail that got stolen. The seat is just bare coils. There's wood lashed to it all over the place, obviously. This is the kind of ingenuity that's keeping these bikes running, but it's also what we're up against, right? This bike, when we arrived at the factory where they were assembling these, the Buffalo bikes, the guys came out to meet us and they said, "Oh yeah, look at these beautiful Buffalo bikes." And then they said, look at this piece of junk. It's from Hero. Guess how old it is?" And everybody's guessing 20 years. And he's like, 3 weeks. And he was obviously joking as well, but he wasn't that far off. I think this bicycle was only a year old when it arrived in this state. And so this is a Hero bike actually would probably last in the US a lot longer, but they don't last super long in the conditions that they're subjected to in Africa. So this is the impact to date. The red bar is bicycles donated, right? And so we have funded 230,000 bicycles just through donations. That's across the US, Europe, and Australia. But we've distributed 500,000 bicycles. So what is that 500,000 number? Well, 275,000 have actually been sold. And so for every bike sold, a portion goes back into keeping the program going, right? So this is a super sustainable business, and it's not really a business, right? It's a charity, but in selling these bikes, we're funding more bicycles for kids, for healthcare workers, etc. So a huge portion of the bicycles sold is NGOs. We sell a ton of bicycles to, and sorry, for those who don't know, NGO is non-governmental organization. So this is just charities in Africa that are doing nonprofit work, but are not part of the government. Like the Japanese AIDS Research Foundation does a ton of work in Africa, delivering and distributing antiretroviral medicine to combat the AIDS epidemic. They own thousands of bicycles. What's interesting with their program, we'll probably talk about this a little bit more later too, though, is that they own the bicycles, but locals actually are the ones that end up riding them to go check in on other locals who happen to be sick and are maybe missing out on treatments or whatever else. So another interesting part of this chart, well, not the chart, but the numbers on the right here, is that 2,300 mechanics have been trained. So for every 1,000 bicycles that are distributed, every 100 bicycles that are distributed, they train a mechanic. And so the average per school that gets a bicycle distribution is about 100 bikes. And at every school that gets 100 bikes, they train a mechanic who will then work from that school. And so most of the bikes that are given away are given to kids. And if you give a bunch of bikes to kids who live in the bush in Africa and tell them to maintain it themselves, it's not going to happen. And so what they've found is that teaching someone locally to become a bicycle mechanic and then giving them a shop space and some startup parts basically to help maintain this fleet of bicycles that is now visiting the school every day. What they found is, one, they can keep the bikes in working order, and two, you're supplying someone with a job who didn't otherwise have one, and it's a sustainable business because now there are 100 bicycles that all need service in town, and they can continue to get parts from the Buffalo Bicycle Corporation or World Bicycle Relief, and continue to work with the program on training and all kinds of other things. So this is sorry, these extra bullets, I'm never expecting them. I didn't go through the animations before this, but increased impact, lower program costs, profits, fund World Bicycle Relief programs, and best business practices. This is all talking about selling the bicycles, right? And so this is all of these are the benefits of selling bicycles in addition to just donating.
So Carlos, this 500,000, that's 500,000 of Buffalo bikes, or that includes the one before that?
That includes the 35,000-ish bikes that were distributed in Southeast Asia.
So we're looking at like 12 years they've been making their own bikes.
Yeah. So this is where they work. Current program locations, Colombia, which is super exciting, but also very, very challenging because Colombia is not flat. It is not at all similar to the plains of Africa. And so they're having to kind of go back to the drawing board on the bike installations there. They're also in Ghana, the Ivory Coast, Kenya, Malawi, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. We have previously operated in Angola, Eritrea, Indonesia, Mozambique, Nigeria, Peru, the Philippines, Rwanda, South Africa, Sudan, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Uganda. And then we have fundraising offices in the United States, Canada, Australia, UK, Germany, and Switzerland. There was a team on the world tour. I don't know if any of you follow professional cycling, but there was a team called MTN Quebeca. Mark Cavendish rode for them for a few years.
Yeah.
Sort of a big deal. So Quebeca was a partner organization. They also distribute Buffalo bicycles. They still distribute Buffalo bicycles to this day, but they're a separate organization now. But they were at one time partnered with World Bicycle Relief. They've done another several 100,000 bicycles in South Africa and Lesotho, I believe, as well. Maybe just South Africa. Don't quote me on Quebeca numbers. But that's that. You may have had previous engagement with World Bicycle Relief that you didn't even know about. So BEEP is the Bicycles for Educational Empowerment program. This is, I think, the most exciting kind of portion of all of this. So you'll see in this image, there's all these bicycles lined up. There's a young lady hopping on her bike for the first time, getting ready to go for her first ride. The smile says it all, right? So these bikes are given to kids, but they're not just given to them. These kids are signing an academic contract, basically, where they essentially are committing to higher attendance and higher grades in order to keep the bicycle. Their parents are also signing this contract. And the contract says that the bicycle belongs to the child. And if the child starts failing in any of these ways, the bicycle will be removed from the family. And that's super important. So these kids, 70% of them are girls. And that is key because in Africa, in these families, the boys are typically tasked with things like the harvest, the planting, big chores that happen rarely. So maybe twice a year, the boys take a week off of school to do the harvest or to plant. The girls' chores are things like wash, cleaning up around the homestead, milking cows and goats, feeding all of their livestock, collecting eggs, all of that kind of stuff. These are daily tasks. And if you're talking about saddling a kid with a 3-hour walk to school, plus all of those chores, plus homework once they get home, these kids are sleeping like 3 hours a day, if they're doing it all. Most parents, in this case, don't send their daughters to school, and it is a crying shame. These girls, giving them a bicycle cuts that 3-hour commute to 30 minutes, typically. When you cut a 3-hour commute to 30 minutes, you're taking 6 hours out of their day and turning it into 1 hour. You are giving them basically 5 extra hours to sleep and to recover from their day and to be kids, right? These are mostly children under the age of 14. So it's shocking the amount that they don't play and are just basically little adults because of circumstance. And so by telling the parents, listen, this bike isn't to make your life easier, it's to make your child's life easier to go to school and do the things you're asking of them. We are empowering the children to go to school. And these things are policed, actually, but they're not policed by World Bicycle Relief or the government. They're actually policed by a community of adults and teachers and maybe a couple of elders on the town council or whatever, but mostly teachers and parents in their community who are checking up on these kids' grades, on their attendance rates, on whether or not their bicycle is being used to get them to school, or if their dad is just taking it every day to go do his work, whatever. These things are getting checked up on. And so there's like a 98% retention rate on the bicycles or something like that. I have more statistics that I can share, but the key ones are we see a 60% increase in attendance, and we see about a 30% increase in actual grades when a child gets a bicycle. The other thing that I'll mention too is that if a family has more than one kid, and they often do, the bicycle is typically only given to one of the children, and it's usually given to the littlest one. And the theory behind that is that the rack actually holds 225 pounds, and so you can put 4 school children on that. And the oldest will pedal it, but it will belong to the youngest kid. And then that way the bike stays in the family, stays with the little kid until they're out of school. And so these bikes get a longer impact as an educational tool than graduating from school and then leaving to go do work, where they may be able to buy their own bike afterwards. Here's the statistics. 28% increase in attendance and 60% academic performance. I think I reversed those earlier. So we also monitor, we WBR have an analytics team that actually goes into these schools and monitors performance and attendance rates and all this stuff. And every year we put out a public document that is measuring our impact. And it actually just came out. So I encourage you to go to worldbicyclerelief.org. The 2019 impact document is actually there. And you can go in and read exactly how much impact we saw, how many students received bikes, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a picture of the document. So healthcare workers are also getting these bikes. So the bikes obviously enable everyone to cut down on commute times, but really importantly, healthcare workers visiting patients and patients visiting their healthcare provider. Sometimes these clinics are 20 or 30 kilometers away. And that is just, it's not something you can do walking. And sometimes these doctors will only visit once a month on their motos and only be able to get to 1/10 of the townspeople. So only the sickest folks get care when on these visits, and often people get sick in between visits and can't make it to hospital or to a clinic because of that. It's a shame. The the majority of Buffalo bicycles used for healthcare are provided through the social enterprise sales to NGOs, right? So, like I was talking about with the Japanese AIDS Coalition or AIDS Foundation, they actually buy the bikes and then they provide them to locals. The interesting thing about the way that they operate is that they hire patients of the clinic, so folks who are infected with HIV and AIDS, and are good about taking their own antiretrovirals, are then dispatched out to the far reaches of the community to go check in on folks who maybe haven't picked up their prescription in over a month, whose prescription has lapsed, or who might not be taking the care of themselves that is needed when you have HIV and AIDS. So it's super, super cool. It's a very community centric effort. Very exciting stuff. Economic development is another, pillar of this program, in addition to education and healthcare. So you can carry 5 times the amount of stuff when you have a bicycle that carries 220 pounds on the back, and you can go 4 times as far. And the time that it takes is obviously cut. And so the statistic we're showing here is for every 10 miles traveled, the bicycle saves 3 hours of valuable time. Every bit of that is true. An anecdote that I'll share from my time in Africa is that we met some of these farmers. Cows need to be milked twice a day. That's not something I actually knew before visiting these dairy farms, but they can produce on a single farm with like 15 cows. Some of these guys are producing 160 liters of milk a day, which is just crazy to me. And the first trip of the day, if they don't have a bicycle, they're putting all of that milk into jugs and then loading those jugs into wheelbarrows, and they are walking down to the homogenization center, or the local milk co-op, of which there are many. And so, maybe 4 to 5 kilometers, they're walking with this wheelbarrow with 160 liters of milk in it. That is crazy. That is a lot of milk. It weighs so much, and they're walking this thing forever. They're dropping the milk off, they're getting paid, and then they walk back with their empty wheelbarrow. By the time they get back, it's time to milk the cows again. Most of these farmers throw out their second portion of milk, or just use it for their family. But no family is going through 160 liters of not pasteurized milk. So the bicycle allows them to take all 160 liters twice a day with very little effort. I mean, the amount of effort saved is crazy. And so what a lot of the milk co-ops do is they will buy the bicycles on behalf of the farmers, and they will take the wages for the second milk delivery of the day from the farmers until the cost of the bicycle is paid back. And so these guys are getting a bike up front, basically with a milk loan, and then they are, once that loan is paid off, doubling their profit. This is really, really life-changing stuff for a lot of these farmers. And we talked about it a little bit before, but the field mechanic training program is really incredible. So there's 2,300 mechanics trained. They service not just the students, they can service local farmers, anyone who has a Buffalo bike, and realistically, they're servicing other bikes as well. And this network of local mechanics then creates this chain of spare parts that they're able to look to the guy in the town next door to pick up a spare cog or a chain or a tube or a tire if they're out. So bikes change everything. I think we have all experienced that as cyclists, and these kids experience it when they get their bikes. It's really, really incredible. The smiles on their faces say it all. But a few months down the line, we met a few kids who had already had bicycles for a few months or a year. I mean, those kids' lives were changed. Going to school on a regular basis is normal to us. It is a luxury to them, and it gives them childhood, but it also gives them so much more. It's super, super exciting to be able to provide this. And so how can you get involved? Well, you can donate. That's obviously the easiest way. I said it before, but it's $147 to put a bicycle in the hands of one of these kids. It's $50 to train a mechanic, I believe. And anywhere in between or less is always appreciated. If you go to worldbicyclerelief.org and you click on the donate link, there are many, many tiers of donation that clearly spell out what you are donating. So, there's a level that, buys a wheel set. There's a level that buys a frame. Those kinds of things. If it's important to you that you know exactly what you're buying, you can do those things. You can also just give general program money. I have raised a little under $500,000 for World Bicycle Relief to date. A huge portion of that is through a corporate giving program with my employer. So my employer, I used to work for Yahoo, and at the time we had something called the Yahoo Employee Fund, and what it was we could all designate to divert any amount of money between $1 and I believe $10,000 a year from our paychecks into this fund. And the company matched every dollar that got put into the fund, which was super exciting. What was even cooler is that the company let us do whatever we wanted with the money. And so we set up a board, set up an entire program to apply for grants from this pool of money. By the end of Yahoo's standalone days, when Verizon bought us, there were $15 million in the coffers, just from employee donations and from growth through smart investing. That $15 million was distributed on the last day of Yahoo's existence as a standalone company. And I'm proud to say that World Bicycle Relief received the largest amount. They received $300,000 that day from the Yahoo Employee Foundation. And over the course of years before that, and some of my own personal fundraising, that total is like $480,000. It's something I'm super proud of. But I say this not to brag or tell you what I'm really proud of. I say it because Yahoo was awesome to us, and they allowed us to do that. But we've carried on at Verizon with a different program that works just as well. And we've been able to raise another like $30,000 or $40,000 through Verizon in just a couple of years of them owning us and figuring out what to do. And I encourage everyone really to ask their employer what they're willing to do in terms of philanthropy. I think that we are often surprised by what our corporate overlords are actually willing to do. And I know that I was excited to find out that it turns out they do care. We're not just the local telecom. We are more. We also invite you guys to fundraise. This coming June 3rd, well, every June 3rd is World Bicycle Day, but this coming June 3rd, we are hosting a World Bicycle Day social distance style, where we're asking everyone not to necessarily fundraise. You're more than welcome to, but just do an act of kindness by bicycle on June 3rd. So I think that's a Friday. No, it's a Wednesday. Don't quote me on it. Look up June 3rd. It's a day, and it's exciting that you can do something good by bike. And and I just want to invite you all to join me to do something for someone else on a bicycle. And this one seems less likely in 2020. We have a lot of events nationwide. Rebecca's Private Idaho is my personal favorite. And if you like riding bikes up a big hill on dirt roads, I think it would be one of your favorites too. It is the most beautiful place on earth, Ketchum, Idaho. There is no place better that I have ridden a bicycle. I will honestly say that. And there's 3 good breweries in town, maybe more now. One of the best visits I've ever done, and just a really spectacular event. They raise thousands and thousands of dollars every year for WBR. There's a bunch of stuff in Chicago. We just hired someone on the East Coast to start picking up steam on the East Coast for events out here. So I'm happy to keep y'all posted, and I can send event notifications as they come through. But 2020 looking bleak for group rides, I have to say. So let's all keep our fingers crossed that I can send out a notification that says, hey, everybody join us at this ride this year. And also important, spread the word by following first. And so on Facebook, it's World Bicycle Relief. On YouTube, it's World Bicycle Relief. On Twitter, it is Power of Bicycles. And on Instagram, it's World Bicycle Relief. And so my name's Carlos Perea. It's not Brooke Souza, but I am not an employee. So I wanted to give you guys all a link to contact the East Coast Director of Philanthropy, Brooke Souza. She is awesome, awesome, awesome. One of the best people. She is currently working out of Connecticut. She makes regular trips to Philadelphia and New York, and is just really salt of the earth. Great person, and somebody I would highly encourage reaching out to if you have questions that I can't answer today. So that does it for the presentation, but I'm happy to answer questions. I've got pictures from Africa I can show. We can do whatever.
Carlos, I want to start with a comment that since I work for REI and selling bikes, it's really different seeing bikes for recreational purposes and trying to custom fit and get the right bike for somebody. And it looks like here's a mass bike product and let's get it out to as many people as we can. And it's like a one size fits all bike.
Yes. So that's actually one of my favorite parts about the Buffalo bicycle. The sloping top tube with the kind of half step through frame allows kids from like 5 foot to like 6'8" to ride the same bicycle. That seat post is like 20 inches long. It's such an ingenious device. This bicycle is really incredible. The crank arms are, I think, 167 mil cranks. Basically anyone can ride this bicycle. It really is. It's pretty cool. And you can, I mean, the kid on the right in this picture is probably somewhere in like the 5'6", 5'7" range. And the kid on the left in this picture is like 4'11". And you can see kind of the difference in pedaling style here.
Carlos,
I think what you do is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's an incredible program. It really is.
It looks it.
Jeff, what were you saying?
How'd you get hooked up with World Bicycle Relief? Because I didn't notice anything about it until you started doing your fat cyclist stuff.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So there was a blog on the internet years ago called fatcyclist.com. And I became friends with this guy. His name's Elton Nelson. He raised like $2.5 million for Livestrong back in the day. Like he was a huge fundraising powerhouse. And his wife unfortunately died of breast cancer, and that's a huge part of why he was raising money for Livestrong, and he continued to do so for years after her death. And when it came to be apparent that Livestrong was no longer going to be a super viable charity to get people behind and excited about, basically the Lance Armstrong Oprah interview ruined everything for Livestrong. Not that it shouldn't have. That's all political stuff. I don't want to get into it, but it definitely made the charity tougher to get people excited about raising money for. But Eldon still had this, devout group of followers on his blog that were excited to raise money and donate and enter his raffles, which were crazy good. So he diverted his attention to World Bicycle Relief. He found it for me. I had no idea what it was until Eldon told us about it, and then he got us involved and got some of the core group. Some of us who had actually met in person and had become actual close friends. We all ended up getting involved, and so there's a group of us. The first 4 or 5 years of the ambassador program, we were all, just friends of Eldon's. And so it's been passed down along the ways. And, I ended up being an ambassador, and it was just kind of a snowball effect from there. Once I was an ambassador, I was like, all right, how else can I help? What else can I do? I don't want to just show up at races with a tent. Like I want to raise some money. Let's see how we can do this. And the Yahoo thing fell into my lap and was able to raise serious money. So it was exciting.
Carlos, do you find that the kids customize the bikes after they have them a while?
They do. The little things that people clip onto their spokes when they're little, and they make the tinking and plunking sound as the wheels go around. I found
baseball cards that would be worth a fortune now, and balloons.
We found all kinds of those kinds of things out there. Kids make these their own for sure. Some of them, though, this was also funny. So the bike comes and it's wrapped in plastic. The top tube, the down tube, basically all the frame is wrapped in plastic. And we found one kid with a 5-year-old bike where all the plastic was still on. He was so proud of his bicycle that he just refused to take the plastic off. He wanted to keep it as new and pristine as possible.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's really incredible. They love these things. I actually have a Buffalo bicycle in my basement that I use for demos. And mine is in worse shape than most of these kids' bikes in Africa. They really do take care of them. And mine has seen some New England winters on a bike rack traveling to and from events. So it's a little rusty.
If a private citizen wanted to purchase a Buffalo bike for down at a shore place, would they be able to do that?
So we don't ship any to the United States, and that's strategic at the moment. So there are massive tax implications to delivering a bicycle to the U.S. There are tax implications for the rest of the program if they start delivering bicycles in the United States.
Yeah.
And so no, not today. But if you lived in Africa or went to Africa, you could walk into a shop and buy a Buffalo bicycle and then fly it home on your own. So this is the most expensive bicycle that you've ever owned if you really want one, because a 53-pound bicycle costs a fortune to ship.
I think if you have those pictures handy from your trips to Africa, that'd be great to see some of your stuff out there.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull some of that up.
While you're doing that, just very different for us. Bikes are all recreation, and just how important it is to a growing society, a growing, just developing nation, or individual purpose get education. Although we sell a couple commuter bikes and some cargo bikes, I rarely have anybody needs it for life-sustaining purposes.
Yeah, right?
The guy with a DUI who can't drive anywhere anymore.
So this is me and that bicycle that I was talking about that was just destroyed outside of the Buffalo Bike factory in Lusaka, Zambia.
Are all those wood to like for storage?
Yep.
To
So
carry
it was
things?
makeshift racks.
Yeah.
These guys carry charcoal back and forth. The power goes out there a lot, 3 times a day for 3 hours at a time. The power goes out to basically the entire country of Zambia. And so they use charcoal to do all of their cooking, all of their lighting. It's super terrible for the environment, but it's what they have to do. So this bike was basically a charcoal shuttle, and that's how it's set up. And you see just so many Buffalo bikes being used that way. But yeah, so we got to build our own Buffalo bikes. This gentleman is Jason. Actually, can you see my mouse or?
Yeah, we're
Mhm.
good.
Okay. Yeah. So this gentleman is Jason. He is the like assistant country director of Zambia. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. But he came over with some of his mechanics, none of whose names I can remember. You'll have to forgive me. And he came over to the hotel, and we all built bikes while he laughed at us, basically, because we were so much slower than his guys. They can put a bike together in like, I think it's 17 minutes. Don't quote me on
Wow.
that number, but I think it's super fast. And all of us it was like an hour and 40 minutes a person. And so we all built our own Buffalo bikes, and then we rode them around Zambia on our different missions. So this is the Lusaka Assembly Center. And here the bikes are kind of getting ready. All of the parts come, so that here's the fenders and here's the frames, and you'll see all the wheels actually come in the back here. They come as rims and spokes and hubs. So these are all being individually laced and trued and all that by mechanics on site in country. And this trivia, if you don't know who this is Mike Sinyard, the CEO and founder of Specialized. He just happened to be on the trip with me, and is a very nice gentleman, despite what a lot of press says about him. Let's see what else. So these are various generations of Buffalo bikes. So this is one of the original Buffalo bikes that started in Africa. You can see the double top tube here, no sloping to the top tube. This was before they went to the one size fits all model. This was the original one size fits all. You can see how low that top tube meets the seat tube, and they realized that it doesn't need to be that low, and that decreases the life of the frame as well. There's a lot more flex in it when you do that. And so, they iterate on this bike every year, and create a brand new bicycle every year. And they're all super, super capable bikes, and they just get more capable. The one thing that's been around since the beginning, though, is this bell, and it is the most lovely sounding bell. I really wish I could buy one and put one on all my bikes. Here are the guys at work. They've got these jigs. Everything is custom made just for assembling a Buffalo bike. You couldn't put any other bike. Well, you might be able to put another bike together on it, but they're really made just for assembling Buffalo bikes. And so it's all very specific tooling. They've got compressors and everything. Another interesting thing to note, though, these guys are all paid a living wage by American standards. And so this is one of the best paying jobs in Lusaka. And so guys are like lining up out the door to get this job. And recently, Brian Munga, who runs the Zambia facility, posted on Facebook. Somebody had asked him, "Why don't any women work as bicycle assemblers for you?" And he said, "I don't know. We've never had one apply." And so he challenged the women of Lusaka to stop by and try their hand at assembling a bicycle. And if with instruction you could do it in under X amount of time, they had one open job. He employed the next woman that could do that could assemble a bike in that amount of time. So there is now one young woman working in the Lusaka facility that I know of, which is super exciting. Here's
Carlos,
oh,
I assume they use sealed bearings.
oh yes, oh yes, yes, mandatory sealed stainless steel bearings. It's pretty wild. Um, there there are so many stories about like lubricant in Africa on these bicycles, like what people are using for lubricant. It's crazy. They're rubbing chains on ox fur to get like the fat and grease into the chain as a lubricant. Um, there are many grosser things that are done. I don't need to go into too much detail on that, but yeah. This
I
is
was,
Brian. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was curious how they came up with the name Buffalo Bike.
Mm, that's a good question. So there is on Safari, there's a thing called the Big Five, and the Big Five are the five most epic, I'll say, animals in the African continent. And so it's lion, uh, elephant, rhino, something, and the water buffalo is the other of the big five. And it is a terrifyingly large. Actually, I have pictures of water buffalo. They are huge and scary. This is a water buffalo. That I am 6'1", and I think I'd come up to where those birds are on him. They are absolutely massive, and they run in herds of like 300, and they're just mean. They're real mean, and so they're also super sturdy. And that's the reason behind the water buffalo, or sorry, the buffalo bike is they're named after the water buffalo.
Is it a Buffalo Bike on all country distribution sites, or do they have different names for them?
So they are all buffalo bikes since they started distributing in Africa. So the Indonesia bikes, I'm not sure what they were called. The bikes in South America, though, are called buffalo bikes. So I guess I can tell you a little bit about the trip. So the first day of the trip, we assembled bicycles, and we went and we met the bicycle assemblers, and we went to the factory and saw how all that worked. The next day we went and we met with Japanese AIDS Coalition, and we talked to these lovely folks who are all either volunteers with that program, and they ride out to check on their fellow townsfolk. And when I say town, that is a very loose sense of the word. It's more like a couple of counties in terms of area. They are riding like tens of miles just to go visit their neighbor, right? And to go check to make sure that everybody's taking their meds or picking them up when they need them, and all that kind of stuff. And these are those folks and their families. They all wanted to come meet us while we were there, which was super fun as well. And we had a really great day, but we also learned so much about the AIDS epidemic in Africa, but specifically in Zambia. I don't remember what year, but at the height of the crisis, basically, almost 30% of Zambians had HIV or AIDS. And they have that number down below 10% now through the use of antiretrovirals, proper use of contraceptives, and all kinds of other educational tools that they use. It's been super, super successful. Zambia was once one of the worst countries in Africa in terms of the AIDS epidemic, and it's now, I hate to say under control when almost 10% of the population has it, but it's way, way better than it used to be, and it's getting better every year. We got to pump water from their well, and they thought that this was awesome because they didn't have to do it. These wells are like, I want to say 250 meters deep, and pumping water up that high is incredibly physical. It is an incredible physical labor task. So some of the folks on the trip with me pumping water, and then we got to carry the jugs as well. Got a taste of their day. And it is crazy hard work. But with the bike, they can just strap that bucket onto the back and ride it in. These are just some cute pigs that they had in one of the pens. Okay, so this is distribution day. This is my favorite. Let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah. All right. So this is all of us. We're sat against the wall here with the elders of the village. Here, this is every adult in the village, not just parents of children at this school, but this is literally every adult in a 5-mile radius of the school. Found out that this is happening, they all came. This is all the students of the school, and only 120 of them got bikes that day, but every student is there. And then this is all the bicycles here. There was so much joy this day. I mean, everybody is singing and dancing and high-fiving and clapping, shaking hands, everything. It was so exciting to see. And they were so happy that they took a collection of all of this food. I mean, and this is months worth of basically wages for them. They dropped a couple of chickens in our lap. You can see chickens here, bananas, peanuts, whatever. And they wanted to give this to Brian as a thank you for the bicycle delivery, and of course did not accept. And they were able to orchestrate like a town dinner for Bicycle Day with all this food, which was super, super exciting as well. But it just shows, I mean, all of this was donated not just by the parents of the students who got bicycles, but just by all of the other adults in the community, which was really cool. Also, raw peanuts. I don't know if anybody's ever had one, but they taste like green beans. It is a very weird thing. Here are some of the kids that got bikes that day.
So because you mentioned only 120 of them got bikes. Was that because they were the ones who were willing to sign the contracts, or that's just sort of your limit?
So neither. It's the council that gets put together that I mentioned earlier. That's like a couple of town elders, a bunch of teachers, some parents. That council decides need. Okay. And then they come to World Bicycle Relief and they say, okay, we think we've got it. We need this many bikes to increase our educational goals by the set numbers, right? So if we want to hit the benchmarks, this is how many bikes we need. And to my knowledge, World Bicycle Relief has never said no. These community groups come with very reasonable numbers, and what they ask for, they maybe always, if not almost always, get. And then, so afterwards, we rode our bikes from the school to one of the students' houses. We followed them home. This was an arranged thing beforehand that we would come home and see their house and talk to their parents and hear from them what a bicycle meant to their family. And this was what they were walking on before. I mean, it's just sand. It's a hard walk. It was a 4.5 mile bike ride. I brought my Garmin and I Strava'd all of our rides there. And I was just shocked at how far we rode. I mean, this is the path. It's not even really single track.
And it's really harsh on the components too. So
oh my God, it's so harsh. Yeah, the sand. So I briefly shared the anecdote about the 3-speed internally geared hubs. Well, what was happening was the sand in the soil into the hub, and it was essentially polishing the internals. It's a really, really fine sand. And when the SRAM engineers pulled these hubs apart, they were just totally smooth and shiny on the inside when they washed them. It totally devoid of any pawls or catches that had previously been there, which is kind of insane.
Carlos, what kind of tires do they put on them to work
so they're
on
on
the sand like that?
Yeah, so they're on Kenda's. Kenda makes a tire specially for this bike. Let's see if I can get a close-up photo of it. This might be our best one. Oh, no, of course, you can't even see the tire in that photo. Oh, here. So this is the Kenda Buffalo tire. They make it just for this. They don't sell it anywhere else. It's only used here, but it looks like an urban rain-siped tire, but it does perform exceptionally well in the sand. I think it measures about 2.2, somewhere in there.
Thank you.
Of course.
So when you built your bike, did you have to lace the hub yourself too?
We did not. No, they did not torture us with that. That sounded like too much. Here's just one of the most magnificent sights. These are all the bikes ready to get distributed that day. As the kids showed up, it was like an American kid like creeping down the stairs at Christmas, getting ready to look around the corner and see all of the presents under the tree. I mean, when these kids walked out of school, there was so much noise. I've never heard so much noise in my life. It was wild. Oh, this is interesting. So this is a classroom that they're in every day, and that's the condition of these schools. So, and they're learning, and they're so smart. It's incredible. They all wear uniforms. Every school there wears uniforms, but some of the kids can't afford them. So that's some of the kids that are not in uniform in these photos. It's heartbreaking to see. I think the uniforms cost $3. So this is folks without Buffalo bikes, how they're getting their milk. Without Buffalo bikes or wheelbarrows, how they're getting their milk to the facility. It takes 3 guys to carry. These are 2 80-liter jugs of milk. So they're walking 5-ish miles like that. It's crazy. And then here's me and my new friend on his old Buffalo bike. So this is one of the double top tube models. And the seat had actually broken off, and we were talking to him that day about how he needs to get that fixed. The seat broke off, but he was just standing and pedaling for that long to get it over there. And here's they can carry extra milk by creating these like makeshift saddlebags, which was bananas. And here's so again, that's Mike Sinyard, and he's actually playing with his pedal. His pedal wasn't spinning freely, and so Mike said, let me take a look at it, and he fixed it right there for him, which was pretty funny. And then this is how they're securing the milk onto these just burly racks. I mean, these racks are truly incredible how much weight they hold.
We compare that to any of our aluminum racks over here, which are good for maybe 40 pounds.
Yeah, I think most racks are rated in the U.S. for 35 pounds, and these are 220. Yeah. Oh, this is the guy that I was telling you about. That's one of the hero frames that used to be holding the tin roof onto his roof. He climbed up there and he said, yeah, I had bikes before this. Look. And he just started throwing a couple down to us to take a look at, and all the bearings were totally spun out, and they were oval shaped, not circular. It was hilarious. He was a really funny guy. He had like 35 cows, I think, and we asked jokingly if he named them, and he said, "Oh yeah," and then he started telling us all their names. Patrice, this one's Mary, this one's number 7. It was quite entertaining. Yeah, that's most of the Africa rides trips trip photos. This is
there an issue with bike retention once they're given to the student that they stay in the family, or is there a high theft rate?
So they're all given locks. I think you can see that in the presentation. The kids all have their locks wrapped around their seats. So there's some theft prevention, but everybody knows whose bike is whose too, because these kids do, personalize or whatever then. And it's just so frowned upon to take from a child in their culture.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
That it is super, super rare. There, in the impact document, maybe not this year. I can't say for sure. I haven't read this year's impact document, but I believe it was 2018, might be 2017. They had a stat on it, and it was super low. It's like single digits percentage of bikes are ever removed from their original owner, and that includes like bikes being revoked because of breach of contract and theft and stuff. Yeah, so I think that's all I have to share. If anybody has more questions, I'm happy to answer them, or we can call it for the day.
Very interesting.
Appreciate it. It's a lot different.
Thank you, Carlos. That's a great cause.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you're doing.
Yeah, sounds like a really neat group.
Well, I just really appreciate all of you guys joining, listening to my spiel. Again, I'll encourage you to reach out to Brooke or to just check out the website at worldbicycle.org. There are a ton of ways to get involved, and it's something that bicycles are something that we are so lucky to have somebody else, more than just the joy of riding a bicycle, but independence and empowerment is that has been a gift in and of itself to be able to do that for others. So I encourage you to take part, and thank you for joining.
Thank you.